Hello everyone, dag allemaal. Today I will talk about being an archivist and data sources. Let me first introduce myself. I am Jajang Nurjaman. I am currently working at the National Archive of Indonesia as an archivist. I pursued my undergraduate degree at University of Indonesia, majoring Dutch studies, and my graduate degree in Leiden University. In this session, I'd like to tell you more about what I do as an archivist and what kinds of archive that are preserved here in the National Archive of Indonesia. Let's take a look at the screen. What can you see? Right, a whole lot of kinds of paper clips, starting from the colonial to the Republic period. Well, as an archivist, I am familiar with these paper clips. Why? Because we meet these things almost every day in the archives. Anyway, have you ever heard of a profession called an archivist? Well, if you are not familiar with the term, I can show you what people think about what an archivist do. As you can see on the screen, the first picture would be what my friend think I do, and the second picture what my parents think I do, and the third picture what is a thing I do, and the fourth one what society thinks I do, the fifth one what I think I do, and the last one what I actually do as an archivist. Now, as an archivist, I work with paper documents, photographs, maps, films, and computer records. You can see here on the slide there are pictures of my colleagues arranging and describing archives. We do this every day. Or you can see me here in this picture transcribing the VOC archive. So far, have you any idea the famous idea of an archivist is? So, archivist is, I take it from Society of American Archivists Glossary. Archivist is a professional with expertise in the management of records and enduring value. Archivist is a profession, not a job. Being one, meaning you have got to have a training and a formal qualification. Some cite an archivist is an individual responsible for records of enduring value. Usually, being an archivist meaning being the chief official responsible for the archive management program of a nation, state, territory, or institution. And in the Netherlands, we could say ieder die belast is met of bevoegd is tot archiefbewerking en beschikbaar stelling van archiefbescheiden. En die persoon heet archivaris. As you can see on the screen, this is our archive repository, or we here usually call it depot arsip, a place where we store and preserve our archives. The place is fairly clean and usually cold in temperature and dry. We cannot store them in a humid place or else we have fungal problem, etc. We keep series of archive from VOC to the Republic. The next picture, you can see a man in the middle of the sea of archives. He is actually an archivist currently working on describing and arranging the archives. Well, we have quite a large collection of Dutch archives. That being said, we have around 20 kilometers of archives ranging from the VOC to colonial period. This is from the VOC period, this one, and this one from the colonial period. And here is our office picture. You can visit us every day, of course, in working days and hours from Monday to Friday. Now, if we talk about VOC archives, we have here a series of VOC collection around 1.9 kilometer of paper archives. They are written in 17th and 18th century Dutch. Of course, it is Dutch paleography. There are two kinds of archives. There are archives created in and formerly kept at Batavia Castle, or we call it usually Batavia Kasteel. in the Castle van Batavia, and also the archives that are created outside the castle. These are local private and public institutions in Batavia. And these two images, example of the archives. Let's see on the left picture. If you can read this archive in het Kasteel van Batavia, see, in het Kasteel van Batavia. From the opening of the archive, you can presume that this archive was written in Batavia Kasteel. This archive is Dageragister or daily journal, and the right picture is also from Batavia Kasteel. This is resolutie. And this archive is about family papieren. You can also see the VOC sign here, and then you can also see the seals there. Now, this one wasn't written in Batavia Kasteel, but but outside the Batavia Kasteel. We have here two images of archive that didn't belong to the VOC organization, but was written in VOC period. This one is from Schepenbank Archives, and then this one is from Notarial Archives. You know, they are not in VOC organization, but they are private organization. They are written in paleography. Beautiful, is it? And usually the Dutch paleography in notarial archives or in the Schepenbank archive is more difficult to read than in the Dageragister on the resolutie. Now, how do we deal with the collections? On the left image, we can see that the archives weren't well arranged at all, and they hadn't been properly described yet. On the right image, we have them properly arranged and described, and then put them in a box, store them in the archival repository room you have seen on some slides ago. How do we tackle the language barrier? And you can see on the picture, the upper picture, this is the picture when we have passed the examinations of the Dutch course. And this picture, when we checked the Dutch course several years ago, in front of the Erasmus Taal Centrum. And of course, how we do with the VOC archives? There are no other choices than reciting the VOC archives every day. As you can see on previous slides about paleography, it was different from any handwriting we see nowadays. It has its own style, and we, in the present, couldn't comprehend them easily. That's why it is compulsory that you have to delve on the archives as often as you can. To put it on the actual term, it will grow on you if you recite it every day. No other choice, recite it every day. You can see here our teacher, one of our senior archivists. She was guiding our colleagues who taught us how to read it. And don't get it wrong, we enjoyed learning, but sometimes it could be depressing. Why? Since the polygraphy was very difficult to understand, the writings, the meanings, because of what? They are in Old Dutch, Old Nederlands. But then we are trying to be positive, and somehow, despite of the barrier, we enjoy it a lot because we are in together. These were the books. Maybe these books are familiar with you who learn modern Dutch. It enables you to understand basic modern Dutch language. As you can see, there are three kinds of books here. Help 1 is for novice or beginners, Help 2 is for intermediate learner, and Help 3 is for the advanced one that really help us in tackling the language barrier. And we also use these two books as our materials. Dutch as a source language. 9 and 10 is used to explain Dutch as a source language in history to help us understand the language used in history documents. And this is a dictionary. The left one was an etymologist Worden book, etymology dictionary. The middle one is about the Old Dutch, Old Netherlands that I have mentioned before. And the right one was a guidebook of Dutch handwriting in the year, I think, 1600 by Bochtman. These three manuals also helped us immensely to find the correct meanings, abbreviation on the Dutch paleography. And don't forget this dictionary. The former manuals were perfect to help us understand the Old Netherlands. This modern Netherlands dictionary helped us to write a good description of an archive. Now, when also we have also online dictionary. For example, this historical Worden book. When you enter search, you will be greeted with this look. As I recall, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago, there was a participant in a webinar asking about how do we determine one's meaning in Old Netherlands. So here what we do. We always consult to the bunch of dictionaries we mentioned before, like etymology dictionary, Old Netherlands dictionary, etc. For example, this word. If you see thought and if you see thought, and then you will get many results, many results. And if it's better than we have to open the physical dictionary, it would mean until. And how about when it was in 17th century? Did it have the same meaning to the present one? Let's see. The meaning is different, is very different. Thought in the present language and thought in the old language. You can see on the slide here. And these are our products. Of course, after we gone through the long process of reading, describing, and arranging the archives, we are finally able to produce an output. This is called a finding aid. The left one is printed, the VOC, the left one is printed, and the right one is online. Neat, huh? And also here we have finding aids for Wijs en Boerderkamers and also Departement van Binnenlands Bestuur, Seri Toegangen, both generated on colonial period. For information, they are available in our reading room. They await you. Now, I will talk about Dutch archives and digital humanities. Aside from manuals and dictionaries, we are also aided by a software that recognizes Dutch words written in paleography. It's called Transcribus. By using the software, we are also helping it grow. Meaning, if we feed the software lots of kinds of paleography, it will have a wide variety and fast recognition when it comes to recognizing paleography in certain archives. Cool, isn't it? For example, you see here the first word, after, and look, the software transcription catch the drift. Another example, this is a Dutch Register archive from Batavia. We try to input the archives. If we type here the transcription, and it will help us to recognize the Dutch old word in Batavia. Aside from the transcription function, Transcribus also has the learning function. We can learn how to read historic handwriting. It doesn't just have Dutch paleography, but in other languages too, English, German, etc. You can always access it on transcribus.eu if you are interested in paleography. This is another example in training. Look at that one, Dutch notarial paper about 1600. So this is typical 17th century Dutch handwriting, and you can learn on the archive on the website. It's very useful for us. Yeah, we have also a website that focus solely on VOC archives, though it was just 1 or 2% from the original size. You can always read and access the archive in its digital version. If you are interested, you can always access it on sejarah-nusantara.andri.go.id. Sejarah Nusantara, ya, sejarah-nusantara.andri.go.id, and then you can see the result. This is an image that shows us how huge is the VOC archives volume that we have here. And how about the back office or the process, how to make the websites accessible online? Here is an image of the software that we use to describe the VOC archive. The software is called Dasa Scan Store. The archivists who understand how to read paleography and the Dutch were contributing to fill the metadata of the archives so that we can publish it on the website. And as I told you before, Sejarah Nusantara. And voila, this is the result. You can always access it online. Only click this, click that, and you can see the image. All in all, why archivists need the Dutch language? First of all, we need to acquire the Dutch language since we have a large amount of VOC and colonial archives to be arranged and described. Second, basic knowledge of Dutch language is necessary for archivists. Well, it is compulsory since we are dealing with archives that use Dutch as its language to make things easier for us to describe the archives. It is our main tool to dissect the archives and present its information to you, our beloved users. Third, Indonesia and the Netherlands still have a good relationship regarding to archival matters. Transfer knowledge is highly possible to do, since the Netherlands has fewer VOC archives than we do. So, though it is difficult to read paleography, but we will do the utmost to present the information to you, our users who have the right to it. Then this marks the end of my session. I hope it useful for you, and we await your visit to National Archive Indonesia. Thank you. Hartelijk bedankt, and see you again.